If you're thinking about renting a property with a realtor in South Broward, Florida, be prepared with these 4 documents. And before we go into the documents that you will need to rent a property with a realtor, notice that I said with a realtor. As a tenant, you have always different options. For example, there are rental communities that you can go directly to them. They have their own time frame and process, and you can move in a matter of days. We realtors have pretty much one source of properties, which is the MLS, the multiple listing service, but not necessarily that has to be your only source of properties. You can be driving by the area or the city that you would like to move in, and you can see a sign, a for sale sign, a for rent sign by owner. So you can call that owner and deal directly with that person. Maybe that owner will not ask you a single paper, any of the documents that I'm going to share with you. So basically I'm talking about what I see on the MLS as requirements for tenant, and I'm talking from my own experience. The first document that you will be required is copies of IDs. It could be passport. The second document is bank statement. The last 2 months of your bank statement, and hopefully showing at least 3 months. For example, first, last, and security deposit. So if you're renting a property for $1,000, you will need $3,000. If you're renting a property for $2,000, you will need to have $6,000 in your bank account. Also, in that same line, most landlords and associations, if you are renting a condo, they will ask a combined income 3 times, 2.5 or 3 times, most likely 3 times the rent amount. Again, if the rental is $2,000 a month, the association and many landlords would like to see income of $6,000 at least. And it doesn't have to be one applicant or one occupant earning $6,000 to be a combined income. The third document is proof of income. Basically, how do you get paid? If you are an employee and you have pay stubs, the landlord will require to see at least the last 4 pay stubs. If you are self-employed, maybe taxes or a 1099, however proof of income you can provide. And the fourth document is a full background check. This background check report will be required for any occupant that is 18 years old and older. So if you have 4 adults, there will be 4 background checks, and that costs money. You will have to pay to get that report. That report basically will show any previous evictions, if you had any previous criminal background, and credit score. Also, along with the background check, there is a basic rental application where you will have to write your landlord's contact information, personal references, how many cars you have, make, model, color, emergency contact. So be prepared to have all those numbers and addresses ready. Now, I have 2 side notes that I would like to add. We have a severe storm recently, and I got a call from a tenant. The house that she was renting got flooded, unfortunately, and her belongings were lost. She didn't have renter's insurance. So as a renter, you can pay a renter's insurance to protect your belongings. I see many landlords requesting renter's insurance as part of the requirements. And the second side note is that those renters who do not have a lease agreement, in other words, they are on a month-to-month rental agreement, we call it month-to-month. If they are paying the rent, the landlord is accepting the rent, but there is no document between the landlord and the tenant, there is still a verbal agreement, and that agreement is called month-to-month. So I got some phone calls recently of tenants that were given 20 days to move out or 30 days to move out of the house. There is a new ordinance, a fairly new ordinance in Broward. It took effect in September 2022, and it's called Fair Notice to Tenant. So you can go to Google and put Fair Notice to Tenant Broward County Ordinance, and you will have information there. basically what it says is that the landlord has to give 60 days notice instead of 30 to those who do not have a lease in place. So I hope you find this helpful, and if you ever have a question, don't hesitate to call. I will be happy to help.